How much does a DPF affect power gains? Can we get the same amount of performance with a DPF versus removing it? And we'll prove it on the dyno today. Well, I didn't expect that. Look how much power we had after removing the DPF. Very surprising. Today we're down at Ultimate Diesel Tuning. Now these guys are the gurus about getting safe power out of our four-wheel drives, and today we're going to answer some big questions that are no doubt on your mind. The big one surrounding DPF filters. Should you remove your DPF filter or not? Is it going to affect power gains out of your four-wheel drive? And of course, we're not just going to talk theory about this, we're actually going to put a couple of vehicles back to back on the dyno so we can actually prove the results and see what you should do with your new four-wheel drive. I'm here with Rob from Ultimate Diesel Tuning. Now in front of us, we've got a DPF cut open so we can show you exactly how they work. Now DPF stands for Diesel Particulate Filter. Now chances are, if you've got a vehicle that is newer than 2017 that is a diesel, it's got a DPF filter. Now these typically run about central on the exhaust system of the vehicle or even up near the turbo, depending on what sort of vehicle you've got. Inside here is a filter that captures diesel particulate matter, or as we know as soot, from the exhaust gas of a modern diesel engine to meet emission regulations. Like any filter, whether it be oil, diesel or air, the DPF will clog up over time, which could cause a major restriction to your engine. It'd be like shoving a sock in an exhaust. The engine won't breathe as well as the EGTs will rise. Now to stop this from happening, a DPF has to periodically burn off the soot that's inside of it. Now, how exactly does a burn off happen?
Yeah, absolutely, Sean. So we've obviously got a DPF here. In the center is the core. The gases travel through the exhaust, through the DPF unit and out the back of your exhaust. We've got a pressure sensor before the DPF and after the DPF and an EGT. When we see a drop in pressure inside the DPF, that's what triggers a regeneration. And when we trigger a regeneration or a DPF burn, we actually see those elements inside clean out the DPF filter and burn out your exhaust system.
Very similar to like a self-cleaning oven or something.
Exactly the same.
Now Rob, there seems to be a general consensus out there, mate, that DPFs are a problem and they probably best be removed from your four-wheel drive's exhaust system. Now, why is this the case?
Oh, look, Sean, a big misunderstanding. We don't see many problems with DPFs. We do see problems with DPFs when people aren't driving them enough and they don't get a chance to do a DPF burn. To trigger a DPF burn, it's got to get in excess of 600 degrees. It sounds like a lot, but it's about 15 to 20 minutes of driving above 60 k's an hour.
Which really isn't a lot at the end of the day. Now, Rob, would you agree, mate, that back in the early days of DPFs, there wasn't a lot of information given to owners in the sense that they'll drive around, they wouldn't do a burn because they're doing small kilometres, maybe a warning light would come on their dash or simply it might even go into limp mode. But these days things have changed, right?
Yeah, look, Sean, DPFs have come a long way from the development with manufacturers as well. There's warning lights on the dash. It lets you know when you're actually doing a DPF burn. We've got stickers on the door cards, up on the top windows to let you all know about DPFs and awareness. So manufacturers have done a lot to improve their, obviously, stance on DPFs and how customers can look after them better as well.
Mate, another little issue, I suppose, that people are, again, misguided, but they assume that because a DPF filter has an injector to put a little bit more fuel in to do the burn off, that their vehicle's going to be using more fuel.
Yeah, the DPF does require additional fuel to do a burn, but look, that can be certainly counteracted by a custom dyno tune where you actually get fuel savings as well.
Yeah, right. I suppose we'll go into more of that a bit later on. You know, I guess there's just so many misconceptions when it comes to DPF filters out there, mate. Just on the second-hand market alone for 79 series. Now, I follow this because it's quite close to my heart. You see pre-DPF 79s actually selling more than the brand new ones on the market.
Oh, look, it's crazy, Sean. And it comes back to the understanding that people don't know about DPFs.
Seems absolutely crazy, mate. When you start to understand exactly the role of a DPF, and with a custom tune, you can get a lot more out of your vehicle.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not really an issue, is it?
Not at all.
Well, Rob, there's no doubt about it, mate. You must get a lot of inquiries about people wanting to remove their DPF filters. I know I do as well. I see it on forums and Facebook all the time where people and so-called experts get on there. They want to remove their DPF mainly because they think they're going to get more power out of their four-wheel drives. Now, why is this the case, mate?
Oh, look, Sean, you absolutely hit the nail on the head. We get 5 to 10 calls a day at Ultimate Diesel Tuning about people wanting to remove their DPFs, and it's purely because they think it's going to give them extra power, and that's not the case. We'll talk about that later on. There's huge risk associated with removing a DPF. It's highly illegal. There's massive fines from $10,000 for individuals and $50,000 for workshops. As well as that, your car's no longer roadworthy, so you can't ever sell it again as well. And also insurance companies recently have actually, their claims have been processed and been rejected due to people removing these parts out of their cars.
And I suppose, mate, if you think you can fly under the radar by removing your DPF, no one's going to know about it. I heard as well, and from you as well.
Yeah, I knew this was coming.
You got pulled over recently for an RBT. What did the copper do? You went straight away and looked for your DPF filter.
Yeah, so had the RBT, which was all fine, but it went straight under the car to look to see that I had a DPF. Obviously my car's got a bit of lift on it, some wheels, and obviously a bit different. So they've gone and looked at it and then checked to the exhaust system and make sure it's got a DPF in it.
Yeah, right. So it's just not worth the risk, is it?
Absolutely not.
Now behind me is a fairly new Mazda BT50. It's got a custom tune done by Ultimate Diesel Tuning, and it's got the DPF filter in place. Now we're going to run this Mazda up with the DPF filter in place, and then we're also going to do another run with the DPF removed. We're going to show you exactly what the power and torque figures are.
All right, Shauno, we've just completed the tune on the BT50. Let's check out the results. In standard form, had 103 kilowatts and 368 newton meters at the rear wheels. After completing the custom dyno tune for towing, as well as having the DPF in, went to 128 kilowatts and 494 newton meters at the wheels. This represented about a 24% gain in peak power and 35% gain in torque. So it's just like when we tuned your 79 series, nice, safe and reliable, just like the BT.
Mate, that's a massive increase in power. You've got to be happy with those results. Let's say we get the BT50 off the dyno now, we'll remove the DPF filter, put it straight through in, and we'll put it back on the dyno and see what the result's going to be without the DPF. Now, all we're going to do is remove the DPF out of the exhaust and replace it with some straight through pipe and delete the DPF off the ECU so the ECU thinks there's no DPF. This is what people would do if they were to illegally remove their DPF from their four-wheel drive. We aren't touching any other settings, so it's purely with and without. And we'll throw it back on the dyno to see the difference. So we just had the BT50 up on the dyno with the DPF filter removed. Now the results are in, mate. Can you take us through what we're seeing here?
Yeah, Sean, I removed the DPF. All we've seen is half a kilowatt gain in power and just over 7 newton meters at the rear wheels from removing the DPF.
Look, to be honest with you, mate, the results, I really didn't see that coming. I thought there was going to be bigger gains, but even with those small gains, that's something you wouldn't notice behind the wheel, would you?
Oh, you would not notice at all. Like, look at 500 newton meters compared to an extra 7. You're not going to notice it. And given it's illegal and the risks associated with it,
it's just not worth it, is it?
Not worth it.
Now, of course, we've seen the results with the BT50, and mate, that was nothing short of amazing. But behind me here, we've got a couple of different makes and models. Now, we've got a Ranger, we've got a Colorado, we've also got a Hilux, and of course, the BT50. Now, these have all had a custom tune from Ultimate Diesel Tuning. Mate, can you run through exactly what you've done with these vehicles and the performance figures that you can expect?
Yeah, Shauno, the BT50, we've obviously seen the results of that. 35% gain in peak torque. The Colorado, that car went 26% gain as well, custom dyno tune. The big exciting ones are the Hilux and the Ranger, where we've got our ultimate torque packs. Shauna, that includes an upgraded intercooler, upgraded turbocharger, DPF back exhaust system, and a custom dyno tune, and we've seen gains with 60% in torque on those two vehicles.
Wow, that is amazing, mate. And of course, they've got the standard fuel system, don't they?
Yeah, standard fuel system, and as we keep saying, all 4 cars, DPF's intact.
Yeah, wow. Now, it goes to show that, you take them down here to Ultimate Diesel Tuning, you get the tune done, retain your DPF filter, you can have safe and reliable power, you can also save a little bit in fuel, and I reckon that's a win-win in my opinion.
So Shauna, I think if you're chasing extra power and torque, removing the DPF is not your answer. A custom dyno tune will achieve those increases in power and torque. One thing we've looked at today is all these cars, but getting in behind the steering wheel and taking it for a drive yourself is exactly how you can experience. So I want you to take the Hilux, take it for a run and see what you think.
Mate, I can't wait, especially you said a 60% increase in torque. I've driven a standard one, pretty excited to see what this thing can do.
Let's go.
All right, here we go, mate.
All right, Shauna.
I'll take it for a spin.
Let's see what you think. It's no 79. Ready?
Let's go for a bit of a drive. Far out. Not acceleration.
Yeah, it's noticeable, isn't it?
Whoa. Oh, listen to that. It just keeps going, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a different Hilux, isn't it?
Mate, I've driven standard ones of these. This thing is off tap. This would make, I Oh hell, it just feels like it's got as much power as my 79, but in a vehicle that probably weighs half as much. It's just so easy to drive. I actually don't know why people just wouldn't get this done. As soon as they buy a Hilux, just get this done, because this thing is just a beast to drive.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. I tell you what, I've learned a lot about DPFs today, and I bet you guys have too. Remember to make sure that you don't have any issues with your DPF. The best rule of thumb is to take it for a good drive every 500 Ks or so it gets hot enough to burn off that excess soot. If you're after performance, and let's face it, we all are, make sure you take it to somebody who doesn't just get big power out of your four-wheel drive, they get safe and reliable power out of your four-wheel drive, just like the guys from Ultimate Diesel Tuning. Now, speaking of those guys, I've also been able to twist Rob's arm to give you guys a special deal. So for the first 10 callers that call up to ask for a custom tune, you're going to get $200 off. So you can find their phone number on the description below, or of course on their website. And lastly, of course, if you've got any questions relating to your DPF filter or your particular model of four-wheel drive, make sure you put it in the comments below, because the guys and the experts down here at Ultimate Diesel Tuning are going to go through these questions and answer them for you. So that's been enough from me. I can't wait to see you next time on Four Wheel Drive Action.